I suppose in a weird kind of way this is me time. To be honest, I've not been feeling creative enough to do things like this for a while. I had a previous video that I've only just chopped up into pieces to load up onto YouTube, only to find out they've raised the limit to 15 minutes halfway through. I planned on doing this video for a while, and I was meaning to do it to get stuff off my chest. And I will, but I'm not sure how much of it I'm going to be able to get off my chest in this one night. It's coming up 4 o'clock, and to be frank, I seem to be having issues these days with articulating late at night. Sometimes I feel like I'm having issues with life in general. But to be honest, I think it's more than that. I think it's something to do with when I'm on an upswing, the world starts to make sense and my mind starts to have an opinion on everything. And I can say what I feel and think about everything, and everything kind of makes sense. A miserable kind of sense sometimes, because what you conclude after all of this insight is that you're dissatisfied with life, and maybe that's when the downswing starts again, and you get back into a position of feeling numb and out of it and zoned out. I know I haven't said it in the same way I used to, and if you could have heard me back in 2007, you probably can. The recordings from that time have been preserved. You probably can hear me back in 2007. I would tell you how much I hated the way my forehead looks and the way it wrinkles and the changes in my face. And I once did a video where I said I'd put an image of my passport photo as a 16-year-old on it, and I think my computer crashed before I could get that video finished. I'm not sure it ever got, I'm not sure it was saved. And I guess one of the things that I just a little bit fear is I'll never be able to articulate as well what I did in that lost chunk of time. I almost feel like I should ask my audience for grace in judging me. That you're not seeing the arguments at their best. Because I guess back then there was a righteous indignation in my heart. I felt alive, and if not totally alive, then I felt indignant and fiery about the fact that my life had gone the wrong way. That my existence, my being, had been cruelly turned into a joke, denied its true potential, its true form. And I could make a passionate argument for it. Because even if the passion of my youth was waning, I could still be passionate about being young. And I do believe that the things I said back then could even have won people over. You know, I feel almost like Job making his case. As if I was making my case for the life that I should have had, that I believe God had led me to believe He had destined me for, and that He had inevitably predestined me for. You know, I was a believer in the doctrine at that time, but the only thing that can screw up your destiny is yourself. As long as you're on track doing what God wants you to be doing, no other human being can. And now I don't believe that at all. Because my experience, and to the grace of God, I wish I could be proved wrong. My experience is other people can take your destiny as it should be in its full and proper form and put it forever beyond your reach. by not playing their part or by actively fighting against the things that God's put into motion. But human beings can not only frustrate the will of God for their own lives, but the will of God for other people's as well. Even when those people are sincerely and devotedly attempting to follow that path they believe God's revealed to them. And there was a time when I was very angry at certain people. Not angry in the sense of hatred and bile and menace. Indignant. Grieved. It's a wound that never healed. Probably never will heal. And if I could swap this face and this body for that one in my old passport photo, because I ordered a new passport recently, if I could somehow magic that into being, I'd do it in a heartbeat. But I'd have to do more than that, because I'd have to magic myself back into a world that doesn't exist anymore. A world with a different culture. It may only have been 10 and a bit years, but really, our culture has changed in some fairly incredible ways. I mean, there are things they do on Trigger Happy TV, which was recorded in the early noughties, that they wouldn't be allowed to do now because of terrorism scares, where they went onto a bus declaring, "We are the global sedition," or something like that, and we have hijacked this bus, and you just get these pensioners riding with their bus passes staring with complete disinterest, like, who is this overweight nutcase in a silly cap shouting at us, totally unconvincing as a terrorist, and just a disbelief in their eyes. Nowadays, the joke wouldn't be funny, because people would be thinking, yeah, he could be a terrorist, because people have become paranoid. Now they see terrorists under every bush. The culture in which I lived has changed. The city in which I lived has changed. Oh, I've spoken about it before, and I don't like to rehash things, but sometimes I feel I have to. That I'm searching for that better articulation, or I'm afraid I'll need to cover something that I missed first time round, or that's been lost. That used to haunt me a lot. This city used to be a dark and exciting place. Do you know the old Chinese curse? May you live in interesting times. This city was interesting times. This was a city where anything evil seemed possible. And I wanted to see God prove that in the middle of that evil, the most incredible good was possible. That in a city full of villains, there could be great heroes. In a city full of hopelessness, there could arise a great hope. I believe God wanted to grandstand and prove that Bradford could be an example of how the most past it city, economically deprived, riddled with organised and disorganised crime, with drugs, prostitution, underage prostitution, with ethnic tensions and I hesitate to say religious separatism, but religious um, um, with religious elements that desire a greater slice of government pie, even if it's against the basic principles of the country as a whole, of our history and Christian heritage, and prove that anything was possible. I saw a city where mosques would be converted into churches because God would break the Muslim white person barrier, where they'd all been in enclaves, and his grace would prove that Christianity is a religion for all races, not locked into any one culture. This city full of ethnic tensions um, and problems and deeply dividing issues could be an example of how God could make a model city. That's what I believed. And that I was supposed to be a part of it as a young person. But it was a dark and brooding city. A city with gravity. It's what I love about our dark satanic mills, as Blake would have called them. This place has a gravity in darkness that it would also have in light. But it feels like it's being stripped away these days and replaced with mediocrity.